Hey, everybody, and welcome back. Today, we're going to be going beyond the flood narrative in Genesis.
Right.
And exploring a chapter that I think is often overlooked, Genesis 9. You know, everybody knows the story of the ark and the animals.
Of course.
And the dove with the olive branch.
Right.
But what happens after the waters recede?
Yeah.
That's what we're going to be looking at today.
That's right.
And Genesis 9 reveals kind of a new beginning, a covenant between God and all living creatures.
It really is. It's not just like, hey, we promise not to flood the earth again.
Right.
It's a profound declaration that redefines humanity's place in the world.
Okay, so imagine you're Noah. You've just endured this absolutely terrifying, world-altering event.
Yeah.
And then you see this brilliant rainbow arcing across the sky. It's not just pretty.
No.
It's a symbol of hope.
Yeah.
A sign that maybe, just maybe, things are going to be okay.
Exactly. It becomes a tangible reminder of God's promise. A beacon of hope.
Yeah.
For a world still really reeling from the trauma of the flood.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, this covenant isn't just between God and Noah.
Right.
It's with all living creatures.
It is.
That's a pretty big deal, right?
It is a big deal. And it raises some really interesting questions about how we as humans are supposed to relate to the rest of creation.
Yeah.
For example, the text grants humans dominion over animals.
Right.
But then immediately follows that with a seemingly contradictory instruction.
Wait, what do you mean?
Well, humans are given permission to eat animals, but are strictly forbidden from consuming meat with the blood still in it.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I've always wondered about that. Why make that distinction?
Yeah.
Is it purely symbolic?
There are several interpretations, and I think exploring those can reveal a lot about the ethical concerns that are present even in these ancient texts. Some see it as a symbolic gesture, a way of acknowledging the life essence of the animal and showing respect for the act of taking a life.
So it's not just about humans rule, animals drool.
No.
There's this sense of responsibility woven into the text.
Absolutely. Others interpret the prohibition against consuming blood as a practical measure in a time before refrigeration.
Ah, right.
Hot-sitting the importance of food safety.
Right.
And it's possible that both the symbolic and practical interpretations hold weight.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting. We've got this idea of dominion, but also this emphasis on respecting life.
Yeah.
And then the text shifts gears and introduces this concept of imago Dei, humans being created in the image of God.
Right. And this concept is directly linked to the prohibition against murder.
Okay.
The text states, whoever sheds human blood by humans shall their blood be shed. That's a powerful statement.
Yeah, it feels like a foundational principle almost.
Yeah.
Like, this is how we're supposed to organize ourselves as a society now.
You're right on the mark. It establishes the inherent value of human life and lays the groundwork for future ethical and legal systems.
Wow.
But it also raises questions about what exactly it means to be created in the image of God.
Like, does it mean we're literally mini gods? Or is it more about something deeper?
Yeah.
Like our capacity for love and compassion and creativity?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And I think exploring that question can help us understand not only our relationship with God, but also our responsibilities to each other.
Okay, so we've got this covenant, this new beginning, this mandate to respect all life, and this powerful concept of being made in God's image.
Right.
It feels like a lot to unpack.
It is. And then we get this story about Noah's sons, Ham, Shem, and Japheth.
Yeah.
Noah gets drunk.
Uh-oh.
And, well, things take an unexpected turn.
Wait, what happens? I'm not as familiar with this part of the story.
Well, Ham sees his father naked.
Okay, and you were saying this is a big deal, but honestly, why? It seems like kind of a small thing, right?
Well, in the context of ancient Near Eastern culture, it was a significant transgression. It represented a violation of respect and honor for one's parent, a breach of the social order.
So it's not just about seeing someone naked, it's about disrespecting a parent.
Exactly.
Especially a patriarch like Noah.
Exactly. And this act has far-reaching consequences.
Okay.
Ham's actions lead to a curse being placed upon his son Canaan.
Whoa, a curse. So it's like a generational punishment.
Right.
What were the specifics of the curse?
The text states that Canaan will be a servant of servants to his brothers.
Wow.
This curse has unfortunately been used throughout history to justify some truly terrible things, including slavery and racism.
It's a stark reminder of how these ancient texts can be misinterpreted and weaponized to inflict harm.
Right.
So how do we, as modern readers, grapple with this story? How do we reconcile it with the message of hope and renewal that we see in the covenant?
That's a crucial question.
Yeah.
For one, it's important to remember the historical context.
Right.
We can't impose our modern understanding of morality onto these ancient narratives.
Right. And we can't ignore the ways in which this story has been misused and distorted to justify oppression.
Right.
But if we're not supposed to take the curse literally,
Right.
what can we learn from it?
Well, I think it speaks to the complexity of human nature.
Yeah.
Even after experiencing a divine covenant, even after witnessing God's mercy and promise, humanity is still capable of causing harm and perpetuating injustice.
So it's like a cautionary tale reminding us that even with a fresh start, our choices have consequences.
Exactly.
And those consequences can ripple through generations.
Right.
But it still feels so heavy,
Yeah.
you know? It's hard to reconcile this story with the hope and optimism of the rainbow.
I understand. It's a challenging passage for sure.
Yeah.
But I think it also underscores the importance of free will.
Okay.
God offers humanity a new beginning, a chance to build a better world, but ultimately the choices we make, both individually and collectively, will determine the course of history.
It's interesting, you know, this whole chapter, Genesis 9, it feels like a microcosm of human existence.
Right.
We have the promise of the covenant, the beauty of creation, the potential for good, but also the reality of sin, the weight of our choices and the consequences that follow.
You're right. It's all there. And it's woven into this one chapter, this pivotal moment in the biblical narrative.
Yeah.
But before we get too philosophical,
Shall we?
let's go back to that fascinating detail about the prohibition of consuming blood.
Oh, yeah. We were talking about the different interpretations of that.
Right.
You mentioned the symbolic and the practical, but are there other ways to understand this prohibition? Does it connect to any other themes in Genesis 9?
That's a great question. And I think it does connect to this idea of respecting life that we've been discussing.
Okay.
Remember, the covenant isn't just with humans, it's with all creatures.
So maybe this prohibition against consuming blood is a way of acknowledging the sacredness of all life, human and animal.
Exactly. It's a reminder that even though humans have dominion over animals, we're not entitled to treat them with disrespect or disregard their inherent value.
Wow, that's a powerful thought. It's like this one small detail, this dietary law, speaks volumes about our place in the world and our responsibilities to all living creatures.
Absolutely.
It's amazing how these ancient texts can still speak to us today, challenging our assumptions and prompting us to see the world in new ways.
Yeah.
But before we go too far down that rabbit hole,
Okay.
maybe we could shift gears and delve into the story of Noah's sons a bit more.
Okay.
I'm so curious about how that unfolds.
Absolutely. After Ham sees his father naked, he tells his brothers Shem and Japheth about it. Now their reaction is quite interesting.
Okay, I'm all ears. What do? Do they join in? Are they horrified?
Neither, actually. They take a garment walk backward into the tent and cover their father without looking at him.
Whoa, they're like super respectful?
Right.
Almost to the point of being overly cautious?
Yeah.
But why is that? Why all the elaborate measures?
That's a great question. And it highlights the cultural significance of nakedness and honor in the ancient world.
Okay.
Seeing someone naked, especially a parent, was considered a grave offense.
Right.
Shem and Japheth's actions demonstrate their deep respect for their father and their understanding of social norms.
And this contrast with Ham's actions makes his transgression even more significant.
Exact.
He not only disrespects his father, but he also breaks a cultural taboo. It's like he's failing on multiple levels.
You're right, and that's why his actions have such severe consequences.
Yeah, it's so disheartening to think that a story meant to guide us toward a better world has been twisted to cause so much pain. But if we set aside those harmful interpretations for a moment, what can we learn from this curse? What message is it trying to convey?
Well, I think it speaks to the enduring consequences of our actions. Even in this new era, this time of covenant and renewal, humanity is still grappling with the weight of choices and their ripple effects across generations.
So it's not just about individual accountability, it's about understanding that our actions can have far-reaching consequences, impacting not just ourselves, but also those who come after us.
Exactly. And it raises questions about the complex relationship between free will, divine justice, and generational responsibility.
Yeah.
It's a lot to unpack, but I think it's a crucial part of the human story, this struggle to understand our place in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, it definitely adds another layer of depth to this whole chapter. We started with the hope of the covenant,
Yeah.
the symbolism of the rainbow,
Right.
but then we encounter these darker elements of human nature,
Mm-hmm.
the potential for transgression,
Yeah.
the consequences of sin, the enduring impact of our choices. It's a lot to hold in tension.
It is, and that's what makes Genesis 9 so compelling, so relevant. Even thousands of years later, it doesn't shy away from the complexity of the human experience.
Yeah.
It acknowledges both the beauty and the brokenness, the hope and the struggle.
And maybe that's the key takeaway here. This chapter isn't just about a new beginning. It's about the ongoing journey of humanity. It's about learning to live in this messy reality of a world that is both beautiful and broken.
Yeah.
A world where we have a capacity for both great good and terrible harm.
That's a beautiful way to put it, and I think it speaks to the power of these ancient texts. They don't offer easy answers or simplistic solutions. Instead, they invite us into a conversation, a grappling with the big questions that have haunted humanity for centuries.
It's like you're holding up a mirror, reflecting back to us our own struggles, our own triumphs, our own potential for both darkness and light.
Precisely. And in that reflection, I think we can find a path forward, a way to navigate the complexities of life with wisdom, compassion, and a deep respect for the sacredness of all creation.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Genesis 9, I'm left with a sense of awe and gratitude. Awe at the power and complexity of these stories, and gratitude for the opportunity to engage with them, to learn from them, and to allow them to challenge and inspire us.
Beautifully said. And remember, this is just the beginning. The conversation doesn't end here. These texts are meant to be revisited, reinterpreted, and reimagined in light of our own experiences and the challenges of our time.
Absolutely. So to all our listeners out there, we encourage you to keep exploring, keep questioning, keep seeking those deeper layers of meaning, and most importantly, keep sharing your insights and reflections with others, because it's in the sharing and the dialogue that these ancient stories truly come alive.
Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey through Genesis 9. We hope you've gained new perspectives, sparked your curiosity, and maybe even found some inspiration for your own journey of faith and understanding.
Until next time, happy exploring.